All right, guys. These are flowing along pretty good. I want to go back and talk about a few things that I've talked about in a past podcast. I did a podcast on testosterone, and let me explain to you about testosterone. And a lot of guys will have a I don't know, a different opinion about testosterone, especially with men. And it's actually a lot of people call it steroids, but when you get older, it's actually not called that anymore. That I've been around, guys. It's actually hormone replacement therapy. Now, I'm going to give you guys my 2 cents worth of that. I'd never have done in my life steroids. Even playing ball back in my 20s and 30s, I've been around people that have done it. I've done a ton of research when I was younger in my 20s and 30s about steroids. I never was tempted to try it. For one, I was powerlifting for Brooks Air Force Base, and I powerlifted for ADFPA, American Drug Free Powerlifting Association. We got tested a lot during that time. I did not want to take a chance with my health, and I did not want to take a chance with my lifting, and I did not want to disgrace my guys that I lifted with. So I never touched it. I never thought about touching it. I have a lot of knowledge in it because I did research back in the day, and I weighed the pros and the cons from steroids, and I decided not to do it because of all the side effects that were happening to guys around me that were doing it. And but whenever I knew one day, guys, and I've done so much research in growth hormone, and I've done research in testosterone, that I knew one day when I got to be 40, 45, 50 that I would have to get on it, because it's common for any adult male, even females do it too, but to lose testosterone as they get older. So I knew one day I would have to get on it. But let me explain to you my theory about testosterone for older men. Let's say your wife, all you guys out there, came to you and said, "I have a thyroid problem. I'm going to have to take Synthrex. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. To actually for the rest of my life because my thyroid is shot." What would you tell her? Would you tell her no because it's going to make you feel better, or it's going to enhance what you're doing? Because if anybody knows anything about a hormone problem with women, a lot of it's thyroid. The T levels, the thyroid levels are messed up. Now you're going to tell your wife that she cannot take any kind of thyroid medicine to actually make her feel better, make her lose weight, to get her life back. So, guys, you got to look at it the same way. The testosterone is a hormone for men. Same thing. It's a hormone. If you lose it, you can't get it anywhere else. You can't go out and get a supplement that's going to build it. It's going to make it for you. There is supplements out there that do work, but not to the percentage. Whenever you lose it, I mean, it goes down 150. You can have testosterone levels 150, 200. Doesn't matter what you take over the counter. You're not going to increase that over 400. There's nothing out there that's going to get a 200% raise in testosterone over the counter stuff. You actually have to take the cream, or you got to take the injections to get your testosterone levels up and get your life back. So I wanted to say that because I did a whole video and I didn't talk about that part. I did a whole video on testosterone, and I've done research in it, on it, guys. I mean, before I talk about anything, and before I do anything, I always do research on it. So I just wanted to put that out there. There's a couple other things. I mean, I got a few questions I wanted to get to, and I just put out a video. It's funny, and I don't call them trolls. A lot of guys just don't understand. I just did a video. We played a softball tournament last weekend, and I'm actually playing with a very good softball player. His name's Tommy Clark. Tommy is an outright stud. He just turned 55s, and he's playing on a 55 55 team that I'm playing on right now. And Tommy Clark can hit. I mean, he's a stud great outfielder. In my opinion, probably one of the best hitters in the state of Texas. And I don't think you're going to get any argument from a lot of guys around the state of Texas that will argue with me about this. But we are playing in Bernie, Texas. It was actually my 55-year-old teams. They threw this tournament. Tommy was playing with us, and he hit a ball. I I haven't seen him. I've seen him hit good shots, but I haven't seen him hit a shot like this. I Googled it because I knew exactly where it landed, and it was 453 feet. Well, I kind of did a clip on it. I put it on YouTube, and I get all these haters, man. It's funny because one guy pops off and says, he goes, what this tells me, like he wasn't impressed, I guess. What this tells me is the bat was high performance and the ball was high performance. Well, you know, and guys, I mean, in my position, I try to refrain from being an asshole, you know, and tell this guy, you're a freaking idiot, you know, because that's not what it tells me. Because, and my reply to him was, I would say the same thing if it was happening a lot. In other words, if everybody was hitting 400-foot home runs that day, I would agree with him, because it means the ball's hot, you know, because everybody's swinging, you know. We're all swinging on our team, Dudley bats. But Tommy swung a Mikan, you know, a Mikan, the white one. A 26-ounce, guys, 26-ounce Mikan, and he hit the ball that far. So, you know, all you guys swinging them heavy bats, I'll talk about that in another podcast. But all you guys swinging them heavy bats, you can still achieve it with bat speed. Tommy's got tremendous bat speed. But it's funny how people don't give credit where credit's due. That was a shot to me. Anybody could reach 400 foot, and not a lot of people do, guys, in tournaments that I've been in. You always see them on video, though. You know, you always go on YouTube and see them 400-foot shots on video. Guys bragging about it, but I very seldom do I see at a tournament, unless I'm in Phoenix or Vegas where the altitude's pretty high. Denver, do I see a lot of 400-foot shots. But in Texas, I mean, there's a few guys in Texas that can do it. There's not, you know, there's more than a few. I mean, but it's not as commonly done. You know, I played in Florida at the beginning of the year, and there was a few of them done down there. But you know, not like you hear guys talking about 400-foot home runs on YouTube or on the message board. I just wanted to talk about that. A lot of haters, man. A lot of haters. What I want to talk about in this podcast was a few things. One of them is I get a lot of people calling me about hitting clinics. Do me and Billy do hitting clinics? I have never. I don't want to say never, because I actually talked to my wife about hitting, and my wife will talk about me hit just to each other. But outside of my wife or my kids, I have taught my son Kyle a little bit about hitting a softball. But he's played ever since he was 5. He's played baseball through high school and college, so I really didn't have to show him too much. Just shorten up his stride, pull his legs together. But hitting clinics, I get a lot of people asking me about hitting clinics. And let me say this: me and Billy do not do hitting clinics. Billy will talk to me about hitting if he sees something wrong in my swing, or like today we hit, and I was telling Billy something about his swing. He wasn't being aggressive at the plate, and I was just telling him about it, and then he picked it up a notch. But other than that, I will not tell people anything about hitting, and because that's not one of my, you know, I guess my things that I do a lot. If you ask Billy, he would probably tell you that he actually will sit down and one-on-one and talk to people about hitting, but not a group of people. He won't do that. We mainly know a lot about bats, and that's the reason we're doing this, because me and Billy know quite a bit about bats, and we just talk about bats, and we've swung bats, and we know the way they swing and how they're, you know, how they're made is what I want to say. But I get a lot of people that want to come down and now guys, you can come down and hit with us down here in San Antonio. I don't have a problem with that, you know, or pick our brain a little bit about hitting. But there's one guy that I will talk about hitting, and that's Ken Van Bogaert, and I'm gonna tell you a little story about Ken. And here's whenever I first started coming in, I didn't know who Ken was when I first started coming into in 2008 when I started coming into to senior ball. I've seen a few of his videos, and I watch every one of Ken's videos, every one of them, and what I see in his videos, there is nothing in there that I disagree in. Nothing in any of Ken's videos I disagree in. And I actually talked to Ken about this. When I was growing up, okay, I want to say growing up, when I was in my 20s, growing up in softball, I'll say that, 21 years old, I hit with Billy Blake, I pitched with Billy Blake, I pitched to Billy Blake, and I think I said this in another podcast, Richard Wilburn, I pitched to him in BP, Dick Bartell, I pitched to him. There is a few other guys, and I'm probably going to be forgetting down here. A lot of the big time, Homer Salazar, big time back then, back in the 80s. And I pitched to these guys. And the one thing, I studied them. I actually would watch their swings while pitching to them. And that's the way that I actually learned how to hit. And them kind of picking their brain a little bit, not really getting too deep into it, but just asking them little questions about different things. And what I heard when I watched Ken's videos, Ken tells the same thing those guys, the old pros, did that I knew back in the 80s would talk about. So I love everything Ken's doing. I think what he's doing for senior softball is great. I'll tell you a little story about Ken. He calls me up on the phone. Whenever I actually did a video about him, he calls me up on the phone, and I actually talked about him, and if anybody needs hitting classes or anything like that, or any instructions, to go to him. But he calls me up. He gets my number, it's on my website, and he calls me up, and I talk to him, and he starts going into this, he starts going in this crap about, well, how do you hold your hands, and when you're driving, your top hand, your left hand comes. He goes, I can see in the videos where your left hand comes around and you're cracking your wrist. You kind of got a little whip to it, and you got a little a little bit upper swing, and he starts going this technology shit. And I actually pulled the phone away from my head, and I looked at the phone, and I go, what the fuck is this guy talking about? He lost me. He lost me when he started talking about the technique of freaking hitting, And it kind of reminds me of you guys, Tony Gwynn. Tony Gwynn was an art. Everything was technique to him. He knew all the angles, and he knew everything. That's what I think about Ken. Is Ken knows, and he started telling me how my swing was, and I didn't know. I didn't tell. I went back and looked at the video. I go, well, shit, some bitch is right. That's a little story. And I started laughing. I said, and I even got back to the phone. I said, Ken, shut up, man. I don't even know what the hell you're talking about. And he goes, well, Dave, you're doing this when you're coming around with your top hand, and do you think you get more drive from your push pull kind of effect? And I'm like, dude, I have no idea. I just get up there and I swing hard. I get the basics down, and I try to swing as hard as I can with control. That's what I try to do. But Ken Van Bard, you guys, I get a lot of people talking to me about hitting clinics, and what I would tell them is, you need to get a hold of this guy. I'll actually put a link at the end of this video. Actually, down below, you guys can look down below, not the comment section, but the section up above it, and I'll put a link to Ken if you guys need any kind of hitting classes. I've actually talked to people that came down, were from Texas, that came down and hit with me about his classes, and they say they're some of the best that they've ever been to. Nothing beats his in the United States. He's actually invited me to come down this October to hit with him. I'm making plans for me and Billy to do that, just to go up there and just go through what he does, and just to hit with him. He's talked about doing some video, and I was going to take my cameras up there and do some video, and I can't wait to get to meet him. I actually have talked to him a ton on the phone. We've texted back and forth to each other, and I've not met him face to face yet. We haven't been to any big tournaments where we've connected. So I can't wait to do that. Another thing I want to talk about is I get a lot of people that call me about selling bats. I do not sell bats. I do not want to get in the bat business. This is not the reason I'm doing this, because I don't want to put up with all the people calling me and talking about, to tell you the truth, talking about if I have any bat deals. Can I get them a cheaper bat? I don't want to do that. I don't want to I don't want to undercut, and this thing I've never done. I don't want to get a, 100, 100 bats and then try undercut everybody else. I don't want to do that. That's not my intention with all this stuff. I do not want to get into business. Billy, when we first started doing this, Billy actually came across some deals where we can move some bats, and I told him I really didn't want to put up with that. I didn't want to, do the kind of stuff that those guys do, because I have the utmost respect for all you bat sales guys out there, because y'all guys put up with a lot of shit, and I don't want to put up with a lot of shit because there's not too many nice people out there that when they get a bat and they complain about it, or they want their money back, or they want to try to trade you out a bat, a used bat for a new bat, and it's just not worth my time that I want to deal with that. So I do, all you guys out there that try to get a hold of me about selling bats, I'll tell you what I will do is I'll have bats that I give away on my YouTube channel every, probably 3 months that I have left over. I use bats in, like when I get, I think coming up, I've got a Jeff Hall Senior end load. What I'll do is I'll hit with that. If I don't crack it, I'll actually get rid of it, and I'll sell it for a cheap price. Not the money I got for it, but I'll sell it for a cheap price, just to make my money back so I can get the next bat that's coming out. So that's the only thing. I don't want to get into bat business. I mean, I've said this numerous times to everybody. I just don't want to deal with it. It's a pain in the ass. So don't call me and say you don't have any bats for sale, because I usually don't. And if I do, there's a tight group of people that hit with me on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays that I actually get a lot of those bats, because they're walking over and they actually hit me up at the time that me and Billy have done finished with a bat, and we'll actually sell it to them just to get it out. Or I'll take it home and throw it in my bat pit. If you guys ever see that, I have a bat pit at my house where I've got probably, I want to say 100 bats in it, all assorted manufacturers that I'll actually have in there of bats that I've hit with. And that's actually what the funny part about is when we moved, my wife made me get rid of 3/4 of the bats that I had in my garage, and I did. So that's only a 25% of the bats I actually kept, and I got rid of the rest. So that's one thing I wanted to talk about. Another thing too is videotaping. I think one of the best, and I know Ken will actually say this too, I think one of the best ways to improve your swing is videotape your swing. Not off a tee, guys, because you videotape it off a tee and that's going to do nothing for you, in my opinion. I think regular swing at the ballpark and your regular cut that you would take when you're actually hitting. That way you can download it. What I do, if I know my swing's messed up, because you can usually feel it, and I don't want to get away from this, but here's my opinion, guys. I cater to a lot of 50-year-old guys, the guys that play softball a lot. And here's the deal. I really don't think, if you're 50 years old plus, you don't get in slumps. I think when you're growing up and when you're in your 20s, or whenever you started playing softball, let's say 17, 18, 19 years old, I think it's easier to get in a slump. But I think when you're older, over 50 years old, I don't think there's nothing, I don't think there's no such thing as a slump for an older senior. Here's the deal. I think you have a technique problem. Either your hands are too high, your hands are too low. If you're standing wrong, you may be opened up, and you really don't know this because in BP you might have got into a habit. So I think videotaping on the older guys is great because it actually gets you where you know what your swing looks like. Nobody else does. And you know what how you step, how you hold your hands. So what I do is when I'm having a problem with my swing, I'll go back and look at old videos of me swinging, and then I'll look at the new video. And I actually put it on iMovie because I have a Mac laptop. I download it to iMovie, and I can move it real slow back and forth to look at my foot placement, my hand placement. Am I, on my back foot or am I on my front foot? I can see all this stuff. Am I way in front of the ball, way in back of the ball? Because usually you can tell if you're swinging, guys. You can tell if you're out in front of the ball. Like I played a tournament last week, and on my second swing, my wife was in the stands, up in the bleachers, and and this guy got me on a pitch that was high and came in short. While I was out on my front foot, my back foot was off the ground. When my wife calls me over and goes, "You know what's wrong, right? You're way out front. Your back foot was on the." I said, "Yeah, because the guy threw me a pitch that was short, and I actually went for it and hit a weak ass ground ball." But I know what I did wrong. I mean, a lot of you seniors know what you do wrong when you're swinging. So it always makes me laugh when I hear the guys in the dugout going, barking at the guy hitting the ball on their own team. You know, hey, you need to do this. Hey, you need to do that. We got one guy here in San Antonio. It's funny. We got one guy here in San Antonio that's 62, 63, somewhere in that age. And he's a coach on a team, and he keeps on barking at his players how to play. Come on, guys. And I start laughing because if you're over 50 and you have to be told what to play and you're playing, AAA, major, and major plus, I mean, you shouldn't have to have somebody, barking at you and telling you how to swing, or because it's just you got to take a lot of BP. And that's one thing I will say about I'm not getting off the camera thing. I'll go back to that, but guys, if you want to get better, you got to take a lot of BP. That's one thing. I can see a difference between taking BP, once a week and taking BP 3 times a week. I see a big difference in my batting average. I see a big difference in my batting average if I don't take BP, because I'm going to hit like shit. But it's all getting your reps in, get that muscle memory. If I actually plan for a lot of my big tournaments that I'm coming up to, and I have a chart that I actually put together back in my 30s about how I approach a big tournament and what kind of BP do I take and my lifting program before the tournament that makes me stronger the day of the tournament. So, I mean, I've got it down to a science where all my weights I know what kind of weights I'm doing a month out from a tournament. I know what kind of BP I'm doing. And if it's raining and I go inside, I do not miss a BP when it comes to big tournaments. And I'm talking about big tournaments. I'm talking about the big SPA tournaments, SSUSA tournaments, Reno or Phoenix or Vegas, whichever one I'm going to. We're going to Denver here in about a year, about another month. So I've actually coordinated my, and I do it on a big calendar on all my videos. Big calendar, excuse me, on all my tournaments that are coming up. But that's what I want to talk about, guys. In this podcast, I'm gonna do another one. Try to do one every 2 weeks. So subscribe to my shit. Look me up on Facebook. Friend me on Facebook. And guys, here's the deal: you guys that have, you need to get computer literate. Okay. Because there's a wealth of knowledge out there that actually comes over, YouTube. Subscribe to me on YouTube. I've got a website up there. I'm going to put a lot of the stuff that I talk about, a lot of videos up about testosterone and HGH. There's a lot of stuff. Ken Van Bogaert's got his hidden videos in there on my website. It's www.seniorsoftballbatreviews.com. You can hit me up on Facebook. It's David Velasquez. And I actually have Senior Softball Bat Reviews Facebook too. And our YouTube under Senior Softball Bat Reviews. You guys can subscribe to me on that to get all my videos that are coming out every couple of weeks. Thanks, guys.